ॐ नमः श्रीयतिराजाय विवेकानन्दसूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे. Honorable President of the Chamber of Commerce, Honorable Secretary General, Honorable Vice President, other members and the office bearers of Bharat Chamber of Commerce, dignitaries present here, and my very dear young friends. Mr. Aikat nicely told to keep you smiling. I remember Swami Vivekananda said, by being pleasant always and by being smiling always takes you nearer to God than any other prayer in the world. By being pleasant always and by smiling always takes you nearer to God than any other prayer in the world. So very nicely the President told to keep smiling. That is the main message of Swami Vivekananda. But how to keep smiling? For that we must know the management technique. How to keep smiling under the present scenario, so many problems. Say, anybody you ask, how are you? Fine. But when you go nearby and ask any problem, oh my God, so many problems, if you put into the computer, it will be falling short. The memory is not there. So many problems. So, at the outset, I would like to congratulate the Bharat Chamber of Commerce, number one, that for its existence. I was given a very nice book that has been brought out, and I was going through. The first president was made in the year 1900, that is past century. So, an institution surviving for 112 years itself is the biggest tribute to that institution. Surviving. Many institutions come forward. They come into existence. After 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, maximum 10 years, they gone. But here is Bharat Chamber of Commerce still existing. So I have to give congratulations on 3 counts. Number 1, for its existence. Number 2, not only that it is existing, it is live. Many institutions are there, existing for more than 100 years, but they are living on oxygen. But here is a live institution. I was going through, so many programs are being conducted, and keeping in touch with the latest technologies, latest developments in various fields, whether political, economical, or in the managerial field. So, on the second count, I have to give congratulations for keeping it not exist, but keeping it alive. And thirdly, I would like to congratulate the Chamber of Commerce for taking the initiative, becoming a pioneer institution of its sort to celebrate Swami Vivekananda's 150th birth anniversary of Swami Vivekananda. You know, Swami Vivekananda's 150th birth anniversary is being celebrated all over the world, not only in India. We wanted this to be celebrated in 2013 to 14 because 12 January 1863 Swami Vivekananda was born, and only after 100 years makes it 12 January 2013. So from 2013 to 14 we wanted to celebrate, and we approached the Government of India. The Government of India has constituted a central committee with the Honorable Prime Minister as the chairperson, and with 9 chief ministers of various states, 3 monks of Ramakrishna order, and 65 other renowned persons from the country. We wanted from 2013 to 14, but they said, why not start from now itself? So the celebration is taking place from 2010 to 14. 4 years it is going on. In fact, last year, in the month of October, UNESCO had a special exhibition at the Paris Town Hall. And as you know, recently in Chicago University, Vivekananda Chair has been started, but the Government of India has donated $1.5 million to start Vivekananda Chair. So not only in India, all over the world, the celebration is taking place. Many institutions have come forward to celebrate the event in a befitting manner. including some Rotaries, Lions. We had a special meeting called by the Chief Minister of Gujarat on 12 December when he called 150 enlightened citizens of the whole of state to discuss as to how this whole year should be celebrated. And there were so many suggestions and many Rotary clubs, many Chamber of Commerce. They have given their suggestions and they said that they themselves will be celebrating in a befitting manner. But they are planning. But here the Bharat Chamber of Commerce has executed the plan, and as today it is a lecture on Swami Vivekananda. That is why I must congratulate. Another thing is that the topic that has been kept, I must congratulate for that also, because Swami Vivekananda's personality was a multifaceted personality. Just now we had a very beautiful welcome address from the President, Mr. Aikat. What a wonderful address. And so many points have already been covered and has been told rightly that Swami Vivekananda's personality was a multifaceted personality, and particularly this dimension that he of course was a great saint of a highest order. He was a great Vedantin. Many people say that no, he was a great patriot who inspired the patriots like Mahatma Gandhi, Subhash Chandra Bose, Dr. Radhakrishnan, Jawaharlal Nehru, Chakravarti, Rajgopalachari, Sri Arvind, etc. So he was a great patriot. He was a great writer, a great orator who made 7,000 people stand in awe just when he uttered Sisters and Brothers of America in the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago on 11 September 1893. Mind you, that was also 9/11. But we didn't listen to the message of Swami Vivekananda of harmony of religions. There was another 9/11 in 2001. But that is because we did not listen to the message of Swami Vivekananda. But whatever it is, some people take Swami Vivekananda to be a great orator, a great writer, a great patriot, a great journalist who started many journals and who inspired many people to start various journals during his lifetime, and after his lifetime it continued. So many, it's a multifaceted personality. But one dimension that has not yet been very much projected is that he was a leader of the supreme type. Today when we are talking about globalization, the only one global leader who is accepted to all the countries, to all the creeds, to all the religions, people of all folds, is a global leader. We are talking about globalization. But where is global peace? Global peace cannot come unless until there is a global civilization. And global civilization cannot come till we have global leaders to inspire that global perspective on religions and on all various facets. And what a wonderful thing that Swami Vivekananda talked about globalization more than 100 years back, and he is a global leader who is acceptable to various countries and to the people of various faiths. And Swami Vivekananda in his lifetime had friends of all caste, belonging to various creeds, various religions and various countries. In fact, when United States brought out the great 100 people who built New America, one of the names was Swami Vivekananda in America. In India, we have still to prepare that. We are babe. In fact, they said that Swami Vivekananda is our discovery, because when he was wandering throughout the country in India, you were not giving him bread also. Sometimes he had to go begging, and sometimes he would not get bread. But when he came to America and when he became world famous, now you are giving so much of respect. So it is America says it's our own. Swami Vivekananda is our own. India says no, basically he is from our India. So many countries are claiming Swami Vivekananda. There is a beautiful book by Eleanor Stark, and she has written the book. The name of the book is The Gift Unopened. The Gift Unopened, where she says all the problems of America today is that Swami Vivekananda gave the best gift when he came here in the form of the nectar of Vedanta, but that gift has remained unopened. And when we will rediscover that gift, all our problems, stress management, everything will be there. All the stress will be removed. All our problems will be removed. And she has given a very beautiful statement that Columbus discovered the soil of America, but Vivekananda discovered the soul of America. Vivekananda discovered the soul of America. And that is why America says we have a claim on Vivekananda. Vivekananda gave his best in America. In fact, the first center of the Ramakrishna Mission was started in New York in 1896. In 1897, Swami Vivekananda started Ramakrishna Mission. Before that, in America, he had already started a center in New York, which is still existing. I went last year. I stayed there in that center. Of course, the building has been changed, but same Vedanta Society in New York. He started in 1896. At that time, he had a global perspective, way back in 1896. In 1993 he went. He said, we will have to make a claim there. So Swami Vivekananda discovered the soul of America. America gives us claim. India has got a claim on Vivekananda. And of all types of people used to meet Swami Vivekananda. So he is a global leader with a global perspective. Today when we are talking about globalization, where is the global leader who would be acceptable to various creeds and various religions? And that is why he became popular in Chicago Parliament religions. Swami Vivekananda said, we do not only tolerate all religions, but we accept all religions as equally true. For the first time, a person has claimed that all religions lead to the same goal. Because he had seen his Guru Sri Ramakrishna practicing Islam, Christianity, Hinduism by turn. So, and he said, the life of my Guru was a laboratory of parliament of religions, was itself a parliament of religions, where he practiced all religions and said, Joto mot, toto path. As many faiths, so many paths. And that is based on this Swami Vivekananda had said. And that is why he gave in to the parliament religions. And he had friends from all. Miss MacLeod, Mrs. Oli Bull, so many of American friends, they were all Christians. They became his friends. So many Christian fathers became his friends. And in England when he went again, Miss Margaret Noble became his disciple, and later on she sacrificed her whole life. And then she came to India to start the first school for girls. That time only 1% girls were literate. And Swami Vivekananda said, without the women development, India's development cannot take place. No nation can progress without the development of its women. A bird cannot fly only in one wing. So without the women development, a nation cannot develop. And women development can take place only when women are educated. And so he wanted in 1897, when he came back to India, the first thing he wanted was to start an institution for teaching the girls. And that Calcutta at that time was the capital of British India, and that is why he wanted to start the school here. But he could not get one person who would take up his ideas, and so he gave a clarion call to Miss Margaret Noble of England, who gave up her whole life and dedicated her whole life for the sake of educating Indian women. That is why when Swami Vivekananda gave her the Brahmacharya Diksha, he gave her the name Nivedita, the dedicated one. And that is why Rabindranath Tagore used to call her Lok Mata Nivedita. That Nivedita worked here. Now you see Nivedita Girls' School is still there in Calcutta. But Swami Vivekananda had that vision at that time. So he had Christian, he had Muslims. When Swami Vivekananda was here wandering, he became a friend of Muhammad Sarfaraz Hussain of Nainital. And in fact, he wrote a letter. I quoted that letter to Dr. Kalam when he became the president, because he is has got a good friendship with us. So I wrote him a letter that Swami Vivekananda wrote to Muhammad Sarfaraz Hussain in that time, of Nainital, that I see in my mental eye, in vision, a new India arising with a Vedantic brain and Islamic body. Both together will give us the great India. Swami Vivekananda prophesied that at that time. This Muhammad Sarfaraz Hussain later on became Swami Muhammadananda. And he wrote articles in Prabuddha Bharata. You see these articles. So Swami Vivekananda had friends from various communities across the countries, various religions, of various stratas, poor, rich. Many kings became his friends, his disciples. The Maharaja of Khetri, the Maharaja of Porbandar, the Maharaja of Baroda, the Maharaja of Bhuj, so many Maharaja of Mysore. In fact, the letter that was quoted by Mr. Aikat was that letter, beautiful letter Swami Vivekananda wrote to Maharaja of Mysore. My dear prince, this life is short. The vanities of this world are transient. In this short life, they alone live who live for others. The rest are more dead than alive. This is what Swami Vivekananda wrote to Maharaja of Mysore. So Swami Vivekananda had friends in Maharashtra. So many princes were his friends. At the same time, Swami Vivekananda said, I am no philosopher, no metaphysician, no saint. I am poor. I love the poor. He had poor friends. He had rich friends. He could stay with a beggar. He could stay with a king. He was having a multifaceted personality who was acceptable to all. Today what we need when we are talking about globalization is a global personality with a global perspective. And who could be a better role model for that global personality than Swami Vivekananda? And in his name, when we are having 150th birth anniversary, I congratulate the Bharat Chamber of Commerce to take the initiative of having another dimension of Swami Vivekananda which is not known. That is his leadership qualities, his managerial excellence, that the vision that he had at that time, the global perspective that he had. Many people are unaware about this, his management. In fact, I was very much surprised to find this very much a good comment from Mr. M.V. Kamath, the ex-editor of Illustrated Weekly. He says, when I started reading Swami Vivekananda, I must admit that frankly, I did not expect all these revolutionary thoughts coming from him. But as far as back as the turn of the century, Swami Vivekananda was talking like a management guru of the late 21st century. This is what M.V. Kamath has to say. So this particular aspect of Swami Vivekananda, his leadership qualities, his wisdom of the management expert is not available. Now, at the outset, I must say, when we are talking about vision of Swami Vivekananda, the great innovator of management values, we must know that when Swami Vivekananda left his body, the management science that we know was not yet evolved. It was in the stage of evolution. Taylor had not yet made the work measurement techniques, and after the First World War, the scientific management that we now talk about was evolved. So when Swami Vivekananda was there was no such management or management books or no such management. But in fact, management is nothing but organized common sense, and that is from time immemorial. But what management we know, the science of management, that particular started only after the First World War. And it started only, the management technique started first of all with managing the armies, and later on it went into the organized labor force. It started with work measurement, then work study, and then production, then productivity, and then other departments came up. But Peter Drucker says in his book, The Best of Peter Drucker has come up. You know, Peter Drucker died year before last. He was a very much acclaimed management guru of America. All his books, the best books, have been condensed into one beautiful book, The Best of Peter Drucker, where he says that we made a mistake, I do not know from why and where. From 1930, we started making a mistake that equating management with only business management. But business management is only one part of the management. It is like telling pediatrics. Pediatrics is only a part of medicine. Medicine has got so many dimensions. So, but whatever it is, this management that we know has evolved later on, after the departure of Swami Vivekananda. As you know, on 4 July 1902, Swami Vivekananda gave up his body. And this came up later on. But whatever management techniques that we know, Swami Vivekananda unconsciously practiced them. Not only that, whatever techniques we are now talking about was practiced by Swami Vivekananda in his own life. So I'll give only a few, 2 or 3 examples only. There are so many examples that could be given. For example, we are talking about now values. Value-based management has become an in-subject. There is a beautiful book, The Power of Ethical Management, by Kenneth Blanchard and Norman Vincent Peale, where it is written on the front page, that book, The Power of Ethical Management, you need not cheat in order to win. You need not cheat in order to win. And one of the paragraphs starts with this: to work only for profit is like playing tennis with your eyes on the scoreboard rather than on the ball. To work only for profit is like playing tennis with your eyes on the scoreboard rather than on the ball. So, what we have to give emphasis is on values, not only profit, but the way in which we are making that profit. So the value has become very important. But Swami Vivekananda talked about it 100 years back. He said, if you really want to succeed, you must have credibility. Credibility will come when you practice values. And this is what we are now seeing today. Because of the globalization, which are the companies surviving? The companies having credibility, who believe in quality, who believe in TQM, who believe in zero defect, who believe in quality, at the same time who believe in delivery schedule, and who believe in giving the product at the most competitive price, who believe in productivity. Others are getting wiped out. Why? Because on a long run, they practice values. The values of credibility, the values of delivery schedule, the values of quality. Those companies survive. When there was a great, even now recession is going on in a big way. In India, we have slightly come out of that recession, that which was there 2 years back. But in America, I saw it is there in a big way. And America is in a mess. I do not know what will happen. I saw very good, nice people begging in the street. I saw with my own eyes. Not all of them, some. But this trend has started. The photograph that was shown for Russia few years back, same I saw with my own eyes. One person came back he was crossing a street. Suddenly he came back. He came back, I thought he might have forgotten something. But he opened the lid of a box, waste box. And waste box he opened, I thought he might have forgotten and he might have put something. But what he did, he took out a half bottle of some Coca-Cola or something, drink, and a half a loaf of bread was there and started eating. And he was looking like a big gentleman, like a CEO of a company. From the dress, but he did like this on before my eyes. That was in San Francisco. So, various parts, I saw ladies with a board that I have to feed children, please give me. So that recession has come. We have come out of our recession in India, more or less. But in America, it is still there. But in that recession, which are the companies who have survived? Those who have practiced values. The rest have been wiped out. So, what Swami Vivekananda said about values is very, very important. Azim Premji was interviewed by India Today. What is the secret of your success? He said, I believe in practicing values. And then he said, I believe that the principle of trusteeship management is very relevant today. If you want to have success, any multinational company want to have success, you must practice trusteeship management, which was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi. But though it was popularized by Mahatma Gandhi, and it was practiced also, many people do not know that it was first introduced into the corporate sector by Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda, when he went in 1893 to participate in the World Pal of Religion, at that time, the richest person of the world was John D. Rockefeller, the emperor of petroleum industry. And John D. Rockefeller at that time was undergoing a very, very critical phase of his life. He was very much morose, very much depressed. All his hair had gone and he was contemplating suicide. So much depressed he was. And when one of his friends came to know about it, that he was contemplating suicide, he said, you know, in one of my friend's house, an Indian monk has come. And I think you should meet him and get his advice. And I think you will be able to overcome depression. Rockefeller said, what? I to go to a beggar for getting advice? You know, we are all beggars. We are all professional beggars. We live on charity, on donations. We do not earn. So, we are all beggars. He said, what? I to go to a beggar for getting advice? No, I will not go. And he did not go. One fine morning, suddenly he came to the place where Swamiji was residing. He called the bell, the butler opened the door. Now, he entered inside without being announced, and Swamiji at that time was not in the drawing room, he was in his study room. Without being announced, he entered the study room. Swamiji was fully engrossed. You know, Swami Vivekananda had great power of concentration. When he would do something, one at a time, he was oblivious of the whole surroundings. So he was fully engrossed in his study. Rockefeller stood for some time and then knocked at the table. And then Swami Vivekananda looked up. Rockefeller said, I am Rockefeller. Swami Vivekananda said, what do you want? Now, Rockefeller was not prepared for this type of treatment. Rockefeller means the President of America would get up on his seat. And here he is sitting and asking, what do you want? He was very much annoyed. He said, I don't want anything. Then Swami said, then why have you come? Now he had no answer because he had come without invitation. Then Swami Vivekananda said, Rockefeller, I know why you have come. You have come here because you do not have peace of mind. And then Swami Vivekananda started narrating many incidents from the life of Swami Vivekananda, which no one else knew except Rockefeller. And he became very much terrified. All his secrets are out. Who told all these things to you? How did you come to know? Swami Vivekananda said, do you think it is necessary somebody should tell me? I can see through your mind as I can see through a glass almirah. Then Rockefeller was very much terrified. My God, he has come to know all my secrets. Then Swami Vivekananda said, my dear Rockefeller, remember, you are not the owner of your wealth. All the wealth that you are having has been given to you by God. Remember, you are only a custodian of your wealth. You are not the owner of your wealth. Utilize this money for removing the sufferings of millions of people. Immediately you will get peace of mind. There is no other way by which you can get peace of mind. Rockefeller was not prepared to listen to anybody's advice, least of all from a beggar like Swami Vivekananda. So he became very much annoyed and just left abruptly, as abruptly he had come. He disappeared. But after a few days again he came. Again he called the bells. The butler opened the door. He again went inside. Swamiji was not in the drawing room. Again he went to his study room without being announced. Swamiji was fully engrossed. Again he knocked at the table. Then Swamiji looked up. And then Rockefeller put a piece of paper in which he had made an announcement of a very huge donation for a public cause. Swami Vivekananda read that paper and then Rockefeller said, now you must thank me. I followed your advice. Swamiji said, well, it is for you to thank me. Because by following my advice, you will get peace of mind which cannot be purchased by millions of dollars in the market. That was the first huge donation of Rockefeller. Later on, Rockefeller made Rockefeller Foundation, as you know, and from that Rockefeller Foundation, Nobel Prize winning researchers have been done. What a great work. And then Rockefeller, he not only that he committed suicide, not that he was saved from suicide, he went on living for a very, very long, many years, nearing about 100 years. And then, at the fag end of his life, he wrote his autobiography. He wrote that this life is not meant only for earning money. There is more to earning, and the life is meant for serving others. And the greatest satisfaction is obtained by serving others. He has not given the name of Swami Vivekananda there, but at least he has written all the thoughts of Swami Vivekananda. Whatever Swami Vivekananda said, he has given there. And I was surprised when I got the news. Somewhere I read in an article that when Bill Gates came for the first time to India, first visit, he came to Calcutta first, then he went to other places, many years back. That time, there was an interview by some newspapers, and they asked, why have you come? He said, I have got a great regard for the culture heritage of India. And he said, but how did you get that? He said, by reading the books of Swami Vivekananda. Have you read any book on Swami Vivekananda? He said, I do not go to bed without reading a few pages from the books of Swami Vivekananda. And the Karma Yoga is my favorite book. When I read this, I couldn't believe. Because my concept of Bill Gates, who believes in cutting the throat of others, in cutthroat competition, how could he be reading the books of Swami? I am talking many years back. But after 2 years, I read in a newspaper that Bill